Welcome again, brothers and sisters, to another video of edifying of our spirit. And if you know what spirit means, um, you're on the right page. But if you don't, you're on the right page because you can just go back and look at the other videos. But I will say one word: influence. All right, you either got the right influence or the wrong influence, the left influence or the right influence. Right now, today we're going to be talking about what? So, we got to remember to be grateful, right? In the circumstances of good and bad, because a lot of times we're not prepared for what comes ahead. So, us not being prepared for what comes ahead, we are dealing with more so the inability to basically protect ourselves. And there are a lot of reasons. I'll just say that'll be mainly the topic of the chapter that we're going to be in, which is going to be in the Chronicles of Saints Mark. Now, us being in those Chronicles, the chapter will be chapter 8. All right, and I would like for you guys, if you want, to grab your buy and bow. If you don't have to grab your biblioteca. Now, let's just get started just a bit. And for those that are new to the channel, thank you again for joining. And we're only here to talk about who Yahushua, Yahusha, and Him, Yahuwah, Elohim, Adonai. I don't speak much on blasphemy because that's not what we're here to speak of. I don't speak of treachery because that's not what we do here. All right, everything that we do is of love and is of our edifying to understand exactly the difference between back then and in the modern era of today. And this is very important because at the end of the day, right, it is very important that we understand morality principles because I'm getting into the age of where I'm getting on TikTok, and everybody's just, disputing about meaningless things, talking about if somebody should, abort a mission. And personally, I don't think that is a good idea because a lot of people that are alive right now, people made the choices for them to be alive, either on good terms or bad terms, right? And people are trying to make conditions, opinionated more so than realistic because a life is a life regardless. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's alive, it's still a life. Meaning, if it's in this world, it doesn't have to be walking to be considered life. Because the same way we look at seeds, right, from an apple, we know that if you grow the seed can then become an apple, but we still consider the seed something precious because why? It's alive, right? It's organic. It has the potential to become something better than what it looks like at the moment. Like the same theory as what came first, the egg or the chicken. They're both similar. They just have different properties and functions. One lays the eggs and one becomes the chicken. But let's get into the chapter actually. That's what we're here to talk about. We're going to always talk about the difference, which is inspiration and contradiction. Contradiction is of the modern time and back then, and inspiration is how we are supposed to project ourselves towards other people. How we are required and demanded to approach others. And also, as far as these videos, right? Don't mind the previous video that I made if the images is a little bit too, what's the word, chaotic for anyone here. If the images is a little bit chaotic, please don't take it to heart. I do have more than one device. It's just that at that time I was just like, hey, let me just hop on this, and we saw that obviously that was not a good idea. But let's get started though. All right, so we're gonna be in Mark 8, right? And if you want to follow along, you go ahead. But if you want to be a studious person, you go back and you check on these words. You can go ahead. If you want to be on the King James Version, you go ahead. The Geneva, whatever that it is that you're reading, right? Now the subject of this one, I believe the verse for this will be in the early, verses for chapter 8. The subject for this is going to be sense of humor and joy. Okay, it shows us that how much of a sense of humor Christ has. Now, why is that important? Oh, I can see that right here. I look like I got a muffin head right there. Hey, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't really matter at all. But why is it important that we know that Christ had a humor? It's because a lot of the people nowadays, their humor is, valued based on what? Materialistic things. There's no principles that go behind it, even if it's to elevate in life, even if it's to maintain stability. There's no principles. It's all about what? The common share of attention, influence, and power. That's what a lot of people base their life upon. And that's what we don't do here. Because once you start thinking like that, that means that you abandon the morality of what? Thinking about Christ. It's one thing where you know the dominion of your authority. You know your authority and the power that's given unto you. But it's another thing where when you speak about it, you're talking about it towards others rather than the demons that are in the influence of your possession. Okay? But let's get started though. Agreeing Christ led them, my apologies, let me read that one more time. That was terrible. All right. Agreeing, Christ led them away from the crowd of folks that were surrounding him, and then placed his hands over this man's eyes and head. And after he then asked the man, can he see? As the man opened his eyes, he responded and said yes, in the glee seeing clearly all that has happened. Now, why is that important where, that is mentioned? He asked the man, can he see? It's the atmosphere. It's the ability to communicate, to just make people feel better, right? Just to show love. Not only are you healing somebody, now why would you ask somebody that you know that you heal, can you see? If it's not to bring them into a place of joy. It's not a place of arrogance. That's basically what I'm saying. It's not a place of arrogance because Christ knew who he was, but it's a place of humility. He didn't lower himself, but he humbled himself by being like us, like by being like unto us, so that we can be just like unto him. He shares our emotions, our interests. Okay? Let's read another inspiration, and I believe this is going to be between verses 35 and 37. Right? I do got my notes here, but like I said, it could be a lot. So if you would like to read the whole chapter, please be my guest. Please be my guest, okay? Because it's better for you to. It's good to follow along, but it's also good for you to read the words yourself. And some of the hints that I give you guys is for you to search because these are translations. These are translations. These are in-depth translations, and trust and believe. I don't make the videos that I make just to make them, just so that I can be talking here, rambling all night. No. A lot of people are going to tell you about this and that, just so that you can make it a habit. They're going to try to tell you this and that and that and that. No, they don't tell you about humility. They want to talk about heaven, prosperity. They want to talk about how you should walk accordingly, but then they don't tell you that walking accordingly also is a fight because some people, they don't know exactly what it means. And they also yell at you. They also tell you that this is no, I am with you. I've been through the same thing. I need to understand that there are people that are in the same scenario. We are all fighting the same battle, but we're just fighting it individually. Okay? So I'm not here against anybody. I'm here with you. This is a battle of unity, not a battle of division. We're battling literally against division. That's the reason why there's no love. There's no truth. Because everybody wants to take that role of being king. They want to take that role of power. They want to take that role of things that do not belong to them because they weren't ordained or appointed to be so. That's why people die. That's why people out here make sacrifices, because they don't know. So what it says, the lack of what? Knowledge. It kills people. Let's read the next one. And the subject for this one is tipping point value your integrity and loyalty. The tipping point is usually where something literally is balanced, then it starts to be unbalanced before it starts to flip over. Okay. And it has to do with your integrity and your loyalty, because without those moral compass, right, you won't really know how to feel when it comes to something that's actually good rather than bad. You'll be more justifying your desire of what you feel is good rather than actual the reality of what something is. It's like saying that you're looking at the sky and you proportion only a part of the sky rather than the whole sky being the sky, right? Even if there's just a different discoloration in the sky, it's still the sky. You can't pick and choose a part of the sky if it's the whole thing. Regardless, it's like picking a part of the cake. It's still a cake, right? You know what I mean? But let's continue. What does it say? After saying this, he then asked, who will join him in the works of Ellie's plan? For whoever that dedicates themselves to this and lose their lives for my name's sake will gain a new one. And those that deny me in their worst times or deturn unto their old ways will lose theirs. Meaning what? Your yes is yes and your no is no. Your yes is yes and your no is no. So you can't accept two masters. You can only have one. So when you pick Christ, it's only Christ. When you pick Yahushua, it's only him. Because at the end of the day, right, a lot of people like to pick and choose. We can't pick and choose. I mean, we can, but look at where this society has gotten to. All of the things that is happening in this world. Look at where it's gotten us at. Where we're still fighting useless battles. People out here killing people for nothing, let alone babies. And let me not get started, because the root is not people having kids. The root is people doing the action before they even think about the consequences of those kids because of their what? Their judgment. They want to go out here bumping bodies. Just to get to the root of all of the problems. People are out here bumping bodies. They don't want to take responsibility of that. They thinking that, oh, we're taking responsibility by putting a condom on, by going to the doctor, doing this. No, it's understandable. Your body's your body for the women, right? And for some of the men that are pro that situations, I understand you don't want to take responsibility of a man, but if you're not going to be a man, don't have sex. Just don't. Especially if you're in Christ, just don't. Because at the end of the day, what are you doing? Because when you're going to have kids and then you getting put in child support, what are you complaining about? You don't want to be with a woman. What are you complaining about? And some of the women respectfully, although we're here, we always talk truth. Some of the women put these men on child support because that's just how they feel. Give me one moment, please. My apologies. Demonic attacks. But yeah, just get into the root of it all. People are out here having sex just because they just think it's okay. And there's so much sexuality being exposed out here nowadays. It's impossible for people to not do that. So when I say this is it's very important that the moral compass is understood. And when Christ is talking about for to die for his name's sake, it's not always the sense of you have to jump on a spear and then just kill yourself. No, or just unalive yourself. No, it's more so what is it called? It's more so, I can't even use the proper word for this. It's more so like you just standing up for the truth in general. Just you standing up for the truth. If you know the truth, right? And you speak the truth, but then you don't describe the truth and tell people the truth as how they should hear it, rather than letting people still walking around with their opinions and their claims, rather than actually speaking the truth. I think you are a part of the problem. I really think, without any type of denying, nothing. Right? Let's continue. It says what? So to say, if anyone is ashamed of being righteous, oh, my apologies, we skipped one. For what will you gain in return for the world, and at the cost do you value your soul in exchange for it? So what are you gaining from telling people wrong, from telling people dirt, by using the truth to manipulate people's ideals so they can, you can prophesize in the interest of their profits, of your profits, of them. What are you idealistically gaining from that? Money, fame, influence, women? And this is me talking to those that will come and watch this video for the sake of the fact that they're going to watch it regardless. I know that some people might not realize that there are people that do watch your videos and the view things would not pop up on your thing. There are people that do watch your videos and they will download your videos, they will upload your videos, they will do everything in your videos, but that view would not pop up. So what are people doing this for? To manipulate people? They're doing a good job of the manipulation for a lot of the people that don't know any better, that don't hold on to their sexual drive, that don't know how to say no whenever they just see somebody just wearing. Do you know that some people, there are people out here that are like, oh, women should not be submissive. And I look at that and I'm like, but if a situation pop up and a woman is in a relationship with a man, she's not gonna be submissive then. So if she get her behind whooped, that'll be on her. And then the man is gonna have to hear about that whole entire problem all day, every day, for maybe years to years to come. There would be no end to that. So let's just play the checkers game and also the chess game. On whatever board that you play, in whatever ways that you play on both of those games, you're still gonna lose if you're a man. So women, if you think like this, I hope that you are checking yourself mentally. Respectfully, sisters, because we're not here. We don't do this type of game foolery here. We don't do these tomfooleries type of stuff here. We just don't. And no, I'm not shirtless. I have an undershirt underneath. It's just that I didn't feel like putting this shirt on because what is it called? It's a little hot. It's a little hot in here. All right. But yes, and then it says what in the next verse? So to say, if anyone is ashamed of being righteous instead of choosing this sinful world, I will not mention that before Ellie. Oh, my apologies. Before I will not mention them before in Ellie's in. Well, yeah, I will not mention them before Ellie in his glory, and neither to his angels. You're gonna be on your own with that. That's basically what that says. But let's go into the contradiction. Verse 11. It says what? And the subject for this is going to be esoteric heathens, spirits of religion get on people's nerves when they all can't wait. So they bombard you. So when people are doing all of these mystic stuff and they want you to partake in their murders, right? In their activities of heathenism. I don't even know the proper way to say that word. Heathenism. It might not be a word, but I'm going to use it. Take it as it is. Heathenism. All of these malpractice of indoctrinations and philosophies that are conducted by these practitioners of what witchery, right? They are literally out here telling people a lot of stupidity. Just because you're a doctor, you say that this and that and that. Those are only but so much of a concept that can be applied to a scenario. That doesn't mean that it works for everybody. It doesn't mean that it works for everybody. So a lot of people are forgetting that concept that certain things just don't work for everybody. There's certain things that do, which is considered factual, right? And some things just because it's told in the Wikipedia, in these website links and URLs, right? That is just, straight facts. No. Because if science was to still advance, why would that still be the exemplary of something that is punctual and something that is existing right now? Everybody want to argue about men and women. If man, it's okay for men to be with men, it's okay for women to be with women. But then they skip over the fact that there are two genders. There's no we, they. Even if you consider yourself a they, a it, right? There's only two genders. There are only two genders. Two. I know I'm from Baltimore. I said two. There are only two genders. So what are we playing these games for? What are we playing these two games for? It doesn't change nothing. What are we saying out here to kids? That kids have the responsibility and the ability to choose their gender when they're born with a penis and they want to be a woman. Like, what are you telling these kids? You're confusing them at a young age without you even trying. And no, I'm not against people that are gay. For anybody that's on here, if you are happen to be affectionate towards the same sex, that's not my personal intake. I could care less about who you like, right? Now, if you are saying that you are Christian, maybe you are following the religion and not the actual practice of the commands that have been given to you. So to say basically you're not Christian, simple, without doing all of this, because we can go on science, right? And if you want to talk about science, I'm gonna just give you two aspects of a word: nature and nurture. Nature and nurture. What is natural and what is an influence? Something that's sponged up. What is natural and what is an influence? What is natural and what is an influence? I told you spirit is an influence, right? When we look at the definition of spirit, it's an influence through entities, right? That are that are giving functions to a certain thing. So if that makes sense, right? And the people are talking about legion, there are people that are in this pride, right? This pride movement, right? That have said that their name are legion. Now think about that. That and the pronouns for some people are we, they, it. Understand that this is a psychological thing, it's a spiritual thing. It's an influence. It's an influence. It's an unnatural influence. It's an unnatural influence. Just directly speaking for a lot of the people that want to be Christian. So if you don't like to be Christian now, I'm sorry that I ruined it for you. It's an unnatural influence. It really is. There are men and women. So if you have the words nature and nurture, nature and nurture, right? What else are we complicating science for? What are we bringing science for? To bring nonfiction, ideals, opinions, claims? You want to back up evidence? We can back up evidence, but then you can't even back up evidence if we go to the words of our creator, because you're going to be contradicting. And if anything is considered contradiction is considered what? Blasphemy. So you're speaking blasphemy if you even contradict that. New Testament or Old Testament? Why do you think they're trying to remove the New Testament? Because the New Testament for sure tells you about all of this stuff. Like I said, I don't hate nobody that's gay. I love you all. I love a lot of people. I love everyone. I don't like the activities. And because I'm also being shown a lot of the stuff on here that has to do with you guys' activities on YouTube and all of this stuff. I personally don't feel like watching it because it's like I don't want to see certain, even if it's two women kissing, I don't want to see that. If I wanted to see two women kissing, right, and I was still interested in corn, right, I would go on that website and do that. But I don't even have interest in that. Simple. But let's continue. Let's get into the word. And this was verse 11, by the way. Upon arrival, the Pharisees came unto him, asking him for a sign from the heavens, trying to get him to slip up. So, yeah, they wanted to get him to slip up bad. Why else would somebody ask you for a sign unless they think that you're not going to be able to provide a sign? And what happened next? Annoyed, what did Christ say? What did Christ do? He annoyed, he inhaled heavily and pondered them a question and said, why does this generation look for signs? Mind you, these Pharisees, they already believe. They already know. They already read. So you already know the truth, you read the truth, but then you choose to block out the truth based on what you want. And that's your personal opinion rather than the actual truth. And this is what is going on in the common community in this society as of the exact moment right now. People are choosing and picking what they want rather than the actual truth and directly. Simple. There's no faction of picking individually what other people think that is or it's not. No, we're here, we're speaking truth, and we're being valid as exactly the root as what is. And I give you examples. Oh, you can subscribe to this channel. The roots. What did I just say? All of these things from back then are existing now. And if you watch my videos, you're going to be able to hear some of those hints that I give you and those words that I give you. Things are not accidental. Nothing is accidental. Coincidence is something that happens that are two that come together to actually exist. So it's nothing really random in this world. There's nothing random in this world. And I don't know if any of you have ever heard there's nothing new under the sun. So if that's the case, right, for a lot of people that say those things out of their mouth, do your research, please. That's why a lot of people are out here just being brainwashed because they don't do their research. You have people that come out here telling you that they're straight professional doctors. Take this vaccine and it will give you superpowers. You will be the healthiest person in the world. But the whole time that is exactly what's really killing you. You turning into Magneto out here. And people are still refusing to put that person in jail or serve some type of time, right? It's forgiveness, but I'm just saying, if people are dying for the simple fact that you're doing something that you knew for a fact could affect a lot of people, not just a little bit of people, there needs to be punishment, not death, because that's not we are able to choose certain punishments for people as well, especially if you're going to live in a world where people are dying. Okay, but let's continue though. What does it say in the next verse? It says, Then he proceeded to tell them to listen closely and not forget it, and said, There will be no sign given in these era, saying that he then entered the ship and sailed on the other side of the nation. When you are being bombarded by people that want to see signs, people that want to see something that they cannot perform themselves, but whole time they're the ones that are still performing exorcists, right? Well, exorcist. I think that's how you say it in English. I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong. Please put it in the comment section. But yeah. Back then people, if you think that people were not practicing exorcism, right? Back then in those time of days with before Christ, even when Christ was around, you have no idea. You have no clue. You have no clue. People back then were practicing they were practitioners for real. Back then, they were real practitioners. Nowadays, everything is systematic. So you don't have all of these things to happen because now there's more so alchemy involved. So people don't have to do all of these things to worry about all of this because they're more so monitoring us through our devices that are possessed or they have connections to these neural links, all of these televised, programmings. Like, where do you think these words come from? Oh, Papa, oh man. Where do you guys think these words come from? Tech whiz, where do you guys think these words come from? I told you in the previous video, English is literally like spell casting. It's easy for demons to like if you want to understand what is easy, what if you want to know the language of demons, right? Just break down the language. Just break down a word, my apologies. Break down a word, look at its roots, know its meaning. So if it's anti, right, that means that it has no purpose, right? Meaning if it's not living, then it's what? It's death, right? So everything that is anti is what the demons speak. Vowels, suffix, prefix. Look at all of these root words. They define exactly what you're looking for. For anybody that know Hebrew, right? The language of the Hebrew, or you can say the Hebrew language, right? A son means what? Deceit. Now you tell me what I just told you. How you spell a son? Asan. Asan. I give people hints, and it's not that people don't get it. If people get it, it's just that they don't really try. Like they would prefer just going to a church and say, and they would prefer going to a church and hear ah ah. No, we don't do none of that stuff here. This is not an act show. The Holy Spirit don't even work like that. When you are worked by the Holy Spirit, it shows in your character, not by the amount of money you make. Because you can't even be a pastor and you're cursing every 10 seconds. You cannot. That's not going to work. You are an example unto the people that actually look up to you. You can't. You can't. Let's look into this chapter right here. I mean, verse right here. What verse is this one? I didn't write it down. My apologies, but it's there somewhere. I believe this is after verse probably 20 or something like that. But if you read the whole chapter, you're gonna find it. This is always, all of these are translated, so definitely keep it in mind that you need to understand what is said. Okay, and the subject for this is unprepared to prepare, because the enemies look to divide unity. They divide you. Like I said, we are in a battle of not unity. We're in a battle against division, because division is literally what's literally destroying us. Literally destroying us. Okay, so let's get started. Now, being on the ship as they were sailing, the disciples realized they didn't take a sufficient amount of food on board. Now, before they landed, as they were sailing, Christ warned them of the Pharisees and Herod's temptations on their angled tricks as they would feast. So they will look at your weakness, right? They will look at your weakness. And because they look at your weakness, they're going to be like, okay, this is how we're going to angle this person. They have a lack in this. Like I said, it's always a materialistic thing. People cannot manipulate you if they see that you don't really need something. If you choose to have something, now that like me, for example, I don't need to have certain things. That's why I ask my father before I touch anything in this. Like, I'm so serious. I will literally pray on it mentally, physically, if I actually say it out loud or I think about it. That means that if I say it and I get a yes and the repercussions come, I know at least I'll be still good, even if I have to hear people trying to fight me, bully me, whatever the case is in this world. It doesn't matter if it's something the worst. Like, imagine I don't play this lottery stuff, right? Imagine if I ask and I say I want to go and play the lottery, Papa, should I be able to? Should I? And I get a yes. Who knows? There are a lot of people that won and that actually had a good life, right? And that they don't. And this is not about money. I'm just saying this is just an example, since people like to use money, so it makes much more sense for things in a mental state to click a little bit much faster. I'm not saying everybody, but there are a few people that need certain examples, right? So let's actually get started and continue to make it right. All right. Yeah, let's continue. Let's continue. Whew. It's a little warm in here. They said to themselves, is it possibly because we don't have enough food that they tempt to take advantage of us? And this is the disciples, by the way. So they tried to understand, because he said it, but they were also doubtful. They were also doubtful because they were like, it's just food. No, it's more than that. It's more than that. Sometimes the more you consume, the more you invite. So people feel like they have dominion, and that's never the case. So when they wonder why certain things they do don't work, they don't even realize that you got them on checkmate, and they just looking at you like they they just looking at you like we thinking that we're winning, but whole time we're not winning. We're losing. When you're blind and you can't see that you're losing, and it's on purpose. And I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about your enemies. Let's continue. What does it say? Christ then came in well, my apologies. Christ then came in between them and called them out of them and called them out on them arguing over the matter. My apologies. He called them out because they were arguing amongst themselves trying to figure what he said. Like who amongst them? Because mind you, Judas, he was pretty talkative to some of those Pharisees and scribes. They didn't go to Peter because Peter was not with that stuff. He actually cared about Christ. They went to the least person that had the least faith. Not the most person that had the most faith, but the least person that had the most person. Well, they were all equals, right? But I'm saying in faith wise, they are potential. The, the person that had my apologies, the person that had the least amount of faith. They can't go to somebody that has the most because first Christ rebuked it out of him. Christ rebuked it out of Peter. He did. He rebuked it out of Peter. But let's continue. It says what? He then questioned them and their convictions over little issues, for they acted as if they were confused given their stubbornness. So they were stubborn because they didn't want to accept that what he said was going to be like, oh, maybe they had friends that were Pharisees and scribes, and they didn't want to put them into exactly what he was making, the statements. But sometimes your friends can be your enemies, family, business partners, colleagues, whatever that it is. They can be your frenemies, your real enemies, enemies, not enemies, enemies. You heard it correctly. First person to say that on this channel, enemies. English sometimes be battling me and I battle back. But enemies, might as well go ahead with it. Enemies. It be your enemies. It be your enemies, all right? It be your enemies that you would not even expect. And of course, it's understandable. You care about certain people, but the whole time they talking about you with other people trying to plot on your downfall. How would you know? Right? And then somebody warned you about them. But let's read the next verse. And this is still contradiction, by the way. I'm talking about as of the modern era, as of the things that are going on in this world that we are not controlling. Okay? Um subject for this one is I didn't write the verse for this one either, but you're gonna find it because it's gonna talk about a los, and this is before the actual verse that we just read. So I'm gonna assume that that it probably would be like 18 or 19 or something like that. If not that, then like 20. They couldn't see how division starts not in front of they couldn't see how division starts not in front before their enemies, but in the mind before battle. So know that Christ is the glue. So they couldn't see the fight before it started. So when Christ said that, it triggered something in their mind. So your enemies do not attack you when you're on the battlefield, when you're in front of them. They attack you before you get there. So they do what? They're gonna try to deter or drain your morale. They're gonna try to inflict fear in you. This is how they use doubt. When we use war tactics, right? Sometimes there's this inferiority, right? Ability where certain nations they will use fear before they attack so that the enemy can be discombobulated, so the enemy don't know exactly, the enemy will overthink on scenarios, and sometimes overthinking can destroy you rather than just being, logical and direct. And I'm saying this in the most easiest way to say it. So if you play chess, you can understand what I'm saying. Okay. All right. And what does it say here? And that what I just read right there was just the subject. What does the actual verse say? So Christ then said to them, "You have eyes, but don't see what's happening, and with your ears you don't see." Oh, this is actually after, my apologies. So Christ then said to them, "You have eyes, but don't see what's happening, and with your ears you don't seem to hear. Let alone remember the words I have told you. Remember when I split food among the multitudes, how much did you hold up?" They all confessed and said 12. "Then how about the rest?" They replied and then said 5. Still being on their case, he reminded them on how they are still acting clueless. Meaning what? They could not consider the idea of them what? Understanding that your enemies are going to come ahead of you. They're prepared. You're not. They're prepared with their objectives, their narratives. You're not. So I've been hearing a lot of words just tell me to relax, right? And I'm not the type of person that's just gonna relax when I know that um this road is not an easy one. It never will be. It never will be. Call me Generobi. I don't even know how to say his name properly, but it never will be. It just never will be. To ease up on tension, I can relax, right? But relaxing does not mean that, oh, I'm going to relax for the simple fact that I don't think that the enemy is going to keep coming back. If the enemy kept tempting Christ, oh, it's for sure going to try to tempt me. It's for sure going to try to come and bring a lot of mess around me. For sure. No, 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 none of this, none of that is for sure going to try to bring me down, no matter the circumstances that I went. If I was in my worst problem, if I'm in my best problem, it's gonna bring the past, it's gonna bring the present, even the future that had never happened. So I could be chill, but that don't mean that I'm gonna let go of my sword and my armor and my shield. That means if a snake come around me, I'm gonna cut off the head, because why would I not? Why would I not? Am I supposed to allow myself to get bit and poisoned and corrupted, to let go of my practice, my morality? No. I got to keep moving. I chose this. I was chosen, right? I was chosen and I chose. So there's a difference between doing something that's just not your personal job. We can all choose to do our Father's work, but we all have a place in the work to do. So it could be, we could think of it as random, but everything is already made as it's supposed to be. It's predestined. We can just choose the options of what we are given. That's all it is. That's all it is. Nothing more, nothing less. Just that's all it is. All right. Now this is going to be in verse 31. I actually wrote this one down. Okay. Just to give you guys a little intake, because we've been here for a little while. I'm going to try to shorten this up a little bit and not talk too much. But the subject for this one is betrayal began right here when someone among them didn't believe. The devils jumped from one to another, finding doubt within their circle. And what does it say? After Christ began to clarify to them, right? This is the verse actually. After Christ began to clarify to them the tribulations of his suffering that will come to him at the hands of the elders and of the chief priests and the scribes, for they will reject him and kill him. I should have said unalive, because of YouTube here, because I knew what I was reading, but to unalive him, but he will rise again after 3 days. Saying these things openly, Peter at the time, under the influence, began to deny this unto him. So, like I said, Peter, Judas, from the highest to the lowest. So, because they can't pick if they already picked the highest person that believed, right? You think they're gonna pick the middle person? No, because if the highest person just heard, if the person that heard that, if people that had the highest faith heard Christ say, "Depart from me, Satan's," right? And they believe in Christ more than the least person of faith, right? Who do you think going to open those doors for those devils? It's the person that has the least amount of faith. They're going to find some type of materialistic leverage to hold for that person so they can choose to open doors. Realistically. Okay? And let's continue. It says what? In this is actually verse 33, by the way. And the subject for this one is the transfer to the highest believer in love unto the weakest, which is the opposite, right? And this says what? Turning around to see who's speaking against him, he then saw and commanded the spirit by saying, "Depart from me, Satans, for you despise the truth of Yahuwah and not that of your own ideals." So what was the purpose for that? It's because why? Those devils knew what they were doing. All of these are tactics. Like I said, guys, that's why I give you inspiration and I give you contradiction of what people are doing nowadays, because that's what we need to learn. That's what we need to hear. That's what we need. We don't need all of these. Like, no, we're not here for all of that. Now, people go to church for a whole 2-3 hours, right? People go to church for a whole 2-3 hours. I don't think church needs to be for a whole 2-3 hours. I don't think so personally. Because let's put it like this: we all need to be awake. We also need time to sleep, right? We all need time to not eat, and we have time to eat, right? So the same way we have time to wash, the same way we don't supposed to wash, right? Meaning, if you wash a certain amount of time, there's never really a certain amount of time to not wash. But overly washing can also create, problems on your skin. It can. Some people's skin are very allergic to certain things, and it is very sensitive. Well, people gonna be like, oh, people on the on the chat might be like, oh, it got to be the type of soap that you use. Like, it doesn't matter what soap you use. Understand that it's still destroying cells to a certain extent, especially for the ones and the peoples that use extreme hot water. Irritation like crazy is gonna be upon you. Yahuwah forbid. But yes, that's just the logic as of cause to an effect. I'm just saying. Okay. So as far as to what all we read, right? What is the main purpose of today? The circumstances. Give me one moment, please. The circumstances. The circumstances. What is it for? What is it for? The circumstances. It's so we learn how to operate when we're being tactically destroyed because we haven't been taught how to put on our armor. You could call in the name of Christ. Yes, that's cool. That's good. But when you make the decisions to bring you back to the circumstances, that's when it becomes bad. That's when it becomes bad. We have to get to a point where we don't even have to worry about certain things that we don't feel like, where we feel like we need, where we really don't need. My enemies, you have people out here that have a lot of intrusive thoughts, right? I have moments where my enemies, and I say my enemies, they know that I'm not insane, but I have moments where I would not let up, meaning I would not be with the fugazi, like the stupidity. I would not be with the stupidity. I would not be with the stupidity. All of these thoughts of stupidity is just not something that I care about. I don't. I don't care for it. I will, if I have to say it out loud, I will say it out loud. Depart from me, devils. I have no business with you. I don't care how many people think I'm crazy, because I know what's going up in here and I know exactly what's going on in here as well. So if something is going on in here and something is going on in here, my here is good and right here, and I'm seeing it. I'm hearing something and it's not making sense, meaning what I've been taught in difference to what I know, and it's not making sense in here. I'm going to tell it to leave. And what happens? It leaves. It might come back again, but it doesn't mean that, it's a fight until the day that I leave this earth, and hey, however that it is. But I know what's good. I know what's up. You have to know your enemies. Even if they come back and try to target you every day, they try to bring you, make you feel like you're crazy, like you lost your mind. You have to know your enemies. Because a lot of people can give you scriptures, but they cannot really give you the understanding of morality when it comes to these specific things, and the understanding of spirituality when it comes to these things. A lot of people read, but they just fundamentally read. They don't read to understand really the purpose. They'll read this and that, thou this and that and that. They don't even know that what has been given to them is translated. They don't even know the biography of the person that translated the words for that book. There's so many there's so many aspects of what people are reading out here every single day. And some of this stuff I repeat, but that's the purpose of us having this community, because it's not my channel, it's our channel. It's so that we have a reminder every day of how we can and what we should, right, better ourselves, how we should better ourselves. How should we think of how we're elevating in Christ? Rather than worrying how people are talking to us, rather than worrying about how people are expecting us to live under the condition of getting that diploma, that doctors, you can go ahead and do that if that's what is a calling for you and you think that is a good thing. That's fine, right? Ask the Holy Spirit. I'm sure the Holy Spirit is not going to deny you from you going to school. But then when you have wisdom and you are able to understand concepts, further that knowledge. Go ahead, do what you need to do, right? Not what you feel like you have to do. No, do what you need to do. There's a sense of good and righteousness that come from needing to do something rather than having to do it. Having to do it means that at all costs you're going to get it, meaning even if you go against the logic of good itself. If it be unaliving somebody, robbing somebody, exploiting somebody. There's a difference. And trust me when I tell you this, I'm not going to say this because I'm insane or anything like that. Hopefully a lot of people have a compass of a moral compass, right? I've been in situations where I've had moments I was just following instructions on how one and one works. When we're talking about mathematics and operations and functions, right? 1 plus 1 is supposed to give you 2. So if I'm doing 1 plus 1, following instructions and how this and that works, and it just doesn't work, there are certain aspects of how you realize that it's not just a physical thing. There are people that will have lesser qualifications than you. You are better. You talk. You communicate way better. You have more talents. Whatever. You have more in your papers and your documents and references than they do, and they will get picked before you. And it's not even about how they look or their personality. Understand that everything in this world, yes, the world is unfair, but know that your Creator is very fair. Our Creator is very fair. Yahuwah is fair. The world is unfair. That's why there's choices. People make choices based on what they feel. You can't create a system and don't follow the rules. Then what's the purpose of the laws? You get what I mean? But I'm not gonna keep you guys here forever. Um, we're not gonna get into certain discussions today. I was gonna say about I was gonna talk about something else, but I might make a video about the poetry that I wrote, just so I can just read it to you guys. It's gonna probably be for about maybe 2-3 minutes, right? My apologies, but I love you all so much. I hope that This been help. If any of you were feeling in the downs and about, know that just put your life in Christ. There's nothing that Yahuwah can't do at all. There's nothing that he cannot do at all. Just stop listening to these fake pastors and all of this. You can tell them by what they're saying, not even just by the fruit, but what they're saying. If you know the truth and you read the word, and you don't need to have this translation that I'm giving you, right? But or these specific descriptions that I'm giving you, right? But just when you read the word and you see how these people talk, certain things, your energy, your energy, your spirit is gonna let you know this doesn't match. It's gonna let you know. Be more spiritually sensitive. Be spiritually sensitive. It helps sometimes. Okay, but like I said, I love you all. Nothing but goodness and love to you. A kiss onto you all. And somebody said they don't love you. You already know what I'm going to say if you've been watching my videos. Tell them I said I love you and I love them, and I gave them a kiss too. So if they don't want the kiss, it's going to be problematic. So they have to take my kiss and go along with it. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for joining me again today. And much favor, love unto you. And from our Father, have discernment, test the spirit, and don't test our Father, but test in the sense of praying. Pray, 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 pray. Okay? Consecrate yourself. Be in truth. All right? Always. Love you.